Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula back in the house.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue spinning on the ones and twos. Well, fam, if you watch MSNBC, if you watch CNN, if you watch Fox, even if you watch TYT, you won't hear anything about the Julian Assange case going on because they are pretending like it never happened. So what do? We bring in you the experts who know everything about action when it comes to Assange. And they're here with us right now. From DC, Action4Assange, we got Andrew and Poikinen in the house. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
What's happening, Pasta and Fee? How are you?
Hi.
So, let's start off. Fam, you want to ask some questions? Because we've been talking about this inside the house. It's kind of a shame that nobody is talking about this at all. Caught on a flight, nothing from CNN, nothing from MSNBC. So we got to break it down for you. Let's start this off.
So I've been following a lot of Kevin Gusola's coverage, and I from what I've been seeing, the trial seems like to a lot of us like a sham. It is completely biased. The prosecution has been trying to catch witnesses in these sort of questions, but the witnesses, especially the last two, did a really great job of avoiding putting themselves in this corner. So what's happened so far in the trial? Highlights. What can you tell us about how it's going?
Let's start by saying that there were 5 days of court scheduled for this week, and all of those days of court were supposed to include witness testimony, and we have a grand total of like two official recorded days of witness testimony. There have been more tech glitches with this specific case then I don't like pick a number, just imagine something completely absurd. Like it's nuts. Every single time they go to start court, there's something wrong with the video feed, or there's something wrong with the witnesses' video feed, or there's some, and remember that all of these witnesses were originally supposed to be present for this, with the exception of maybe Dan Ellsberg, who's like 3 days younger than baseball and probably shouldn't be traveling.
Yeah.
But everyone else was supposed to be present and in the room. And now they have to do it all via video. But you would think that a, former empire or like teammate of the empire would have the wherewithal to hire a competent tech guy.
Yeah. So on Monday, we saw Julian Assange officially get rearrested under the new extradition. On June 24th, 2020, so earlier this year, William Barr's Defense Department put out a new superseding indictment, expanding the scope of the investigation for the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion charge. So not only did it include the era of when Julian was just simply in communication with Chelsea, but it also then expanded it to include the time that they were operating in Iceland. And there was multiple FBI informants and infiltrators operating within and around WikiLeaks and through the sphere of LulzSec and Anonymous, which that's a whole like documentary in and of itself. Long story short, he got rearrested on Monday. After he got rearrested, his defense motioned to adjourn court because he literally just had an entire new stack of evidence get introduced into the court hearings, specifically trying to frame him as a hacker more so than the espionage charges, which proceeded under the Chelsea Manning scope of the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. Once that was established, the court said, no, we're not delaying, we're proceeding as is.
Yep.
So on the docket, because of the way the Defense Department and the magistrate over in the UK decided to introduce this new superseding extradition request, I believe there is 60 days from September 7th for the DOJ to add additional indictments onto Julian's charges. But also what that means is everyone currently testifying around the Chelsea Manning's case, their testimony may not even inherently be relevant to whatever arguments the prosecution is going to make once the witness portions are over and they go to actually make a ruling. Because now they're trying to take the angle of Julian was a hacker more so than committed espionage through releasing war crimes.
And real quick, I just wanted to say, so they're switching the defense don't know what's going to be thrown at them, so they don't have as much time necessarily to prepare for it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And when they asked for additional time to repair, the Bereitzer, the magistrate ruling over the case, the judge, said no. Like, we gave you a month ago if you wanted to decide this before he was rearrested, before any of the new superseding indictment or evidence was even turned over to the defense. So she's basically said, no, you put yourself in this situation, it's on you. Which I don't agree with, because it was shady dealings, in my opinion, between the prosecution and the UK courts to not simply rearrest Julian when these indictments were put out. To expand the timeline of these new superseding indictments, they came out on June 24th, 2020, which was 2 days after Julian's defense submitted their evidentiary statements about the case. So they turned over all of their arguments to the UK court system. Bill Barr puts out a press release saying, hey, we're introducing a new superseding indictment into this case, specifically around the era of Lulsect and actions around the anonymous sphere, working with Siggy and Sabu. And then in July, they introduced it into the court in the middle of July. Towards the end of August, they actually got the
I'm gonna push the wrap it up button.
Sorry. But basically, long story short, the defense doesn't even have enough time to review the new documentation that they were given. And that's just Monday. That's opening of court on Monday.
Yeah.
After that, Mark Feldman came in to do witness testimony via the video link. He was unable to be heard initially, so they had to delay while they got his platform up and running again. He was able to give some testimony specifically around how there has never been a journalist charged with publishing any type of information in the U.S. And he killed that point. He got asked multiple questions in multiple different ways, and it always came back to, this has never happened before in the history of the world. About halfway through his testimony, his audio starts acting up. He can't be heard, so they delay it. That's the first delay. It cost about half a day of court because of those audio issues. So Mr. Feldman had to pick back up with his statements on the second day of court. So that delayed the second half of the second day. Do you want to pick up with the second day itself?
We can real quick. Let me circle back to why they want to frame the entire conversation as Julian Assange is a hacker, and that's because of the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion charge, which is the charge that criminalizes journalists doing journalism.
Right.
That is source protection, encouraging your source to gain some anonymity if they don't have it. Things that every journalist from every institution does and would do. And part of the
Steve, can you speak into the microphone? We're losing you a little bit because your voice is a lot lower than Andrew's.
I'm sorry about that.
That's better.
Yeah, basically they need to frame the entire prosecution as this is a computer intrusion thing. This is a cybercrime thing, because once they start talking about whether or not it counts as journalism, if it's protected speech, if it stands up to the Panama Papers precedent, which it does according to a federal district court judge as of last year, who dismissed with prejudice a lawsuit against the DNC saying, oh yeah, no, WikiLeaks has all the protections that the Panama Papers do. That's part of US case law now. It falls on its face. Like, the entire prosecutorial angle and argument falls on its face, to the point to where one of the witnesses actually said in court to the prosecutor, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Right.
That's the last thing that you want to hear from the witness you're direct examining.
Yeah, exactly.
On the opposite deal. Oh, thank you. Yes, let's talk about that.
And so wasn't also the defense that if he would have been involved with they're trying to frame him as cooperating with anonymous hackers. If he would have been involved, a lot of those people have already been prosecuted or are serving time. So where does that go? Because a lot of them, that happened a long time ago, and a lot of them have already been prosecuted for supposed hacking.
Well, with the grand jury that was going on in investigating WikiLeaks, Jeremy Hammond was put in the same holding facility, in the same prison as Chelsea Manning was.
Right.
Because of his involvement in this, they were trying to essentially use him to get statements about Julian. The same way that they were trying to legally compel Chelsea to lie about Julian, they were trying to do the same thing with Jeremy Hammond. So we don't know if he did or didn't. I assume he didn't say anything because the grand jury kind of just dissolved after over a decade, and that doesn't really seem like something they would do if they needed more. But at this point, it's more or less waiting to see what the prosecution pulls out in regards to that.
Well,
go ahead.
testimony from the two people that they're relying on that they specifically mentioned in the superseding indictment are from a guy named Sigurd Thorson, who is an Icelandic citizen, who is also a convicted pedophile, convicted con man, embezzler, certified sociopath, stole money from WikiLeaks and stole Julian Assange's, like pretended to be Julian Assange online. And these are things that are provable, and the FBI is relying on this person. The other person they're relying on is a guy named Hector Monsignor, who went by the name Sabu, who was the guy who was working for the FBI before the creation of LulzSec, which they mentioned in the indictment,
Right.
which is the I guess the hacker group let the FBI put together to break into massive core, so the Sony hack, the Stratfor hack, HB Gary, that was all LulzSec. So the FBI essentially had people hack into these companies and then turn the evidence over to WikiLeaks, which I imagine is a long game way of framing up WikiLeaks for exactly what Julian Assange is being charged with right now.
And then what happened Wednesday? Wasn't that Wednesday the day where there was two really great witnesses that the defense was really having, or the prosecution was having a really hard time getting their objective and done. Like they really didn't like these two witnesses.
Absolutely. So Paul Rogers, who is a peace studies professor at Bradford University, was called first. He had some fantastic responses and got in one of Julian Assange's more recognizable quotes, which is, "If war can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth." Was able to enter that into the permanent court record there at the Old Bailey, which is the first building that gets blown up in V for Vendetta, by the way, since we're all living in the real-time prequel of it right now. The second witness was Trevor Tim, who is the co-founder of Freedom of the Press Foundation, which has been pretty standoffish towards Julian over the last 4 years. But most of the people in Freedom of the Press Foundation, at least very recently, started speaking out on his behalf. But Tim is the guy where I'm glad you asked me that. He's that guy. He was getting badgered. Let's see, is this even the right one? I think so. No, he was getting badgered by Lewis, James Lewis, the chief Crown prosecutor, because that's just what he's been doing. If he's not satisfied with an answer, he'll ask the question 15 different ways, and it's got to just be grating. So Lewis at one point says to him, "You said the decision to indict was part of a war on journalism. Wouldn't federal rules of prosecution be contrary to that?" And Tim says, "Yes, absolutely. This is why I'm stating that I don't think this prosecution should go forward." Like every time the lawyer would come at him, this gentleman he had one in the back. He had one in the Rolodex, just ready to punch him with. It was absolutely fantastic. And the very next day, that prosecutor pretty much phones it in, like tries to phone it in.
Can I run through this part? This is my favorite part.
Okay, go ahead.
So day 4, Thursday, yesterday.
Yeah.
We wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to cover the court trial. In the morning of court, they give Julian 30 minutes to meet with his prosecution. So court technically kicks off at what would be 10:30 over there. The live video feed, sorry, my phone's going crazy. The live video feed goes up at what is 10 a.m., which is 5 a.m. here in the U.S. on the East Coast. At when court was supposed to start at 10:30, Lewis calls in and last night I fell asleep at the loft. My laptop charger's at court. All my papers are on my desk. I don't have a way of getting there to charge my laptop, and it's going to die in 30 minutes, so I can't do the hearing over the internet. So they wait about another 30 minutes, so it's getting close to about 6 o'clock in the morning here on the East Coast. And Lewis gets another device, goes to phone in. They can hear him and he can hear them, but the video's not working for the court's proceedings. The court's internal video software is not working. So about 15 minutes after that, Baratzer says, no, it's fine. We'll continue. Doesn't matter if we can't see him. We can hear him and he can hear us. We can proceed. Prosecutor Lewis then says, well, I don't know if I'll be able to cross-examine witnesses like this. And the judge more or less says, well, too bad. About 15 minutes after that, Miss Dobbins, her husband, may or may not have had symptoms that could or couldn't have been similar to COVID-19.
Yeah.
So over about an hour, it took Mrs. Dobbins, after court should have started, to call in and say, hey, I think my husband has coronavirus. We're going to need to get him tested. We can't come into court. And then the court was suspended till Monday. And then they get the test back today. Oh, he's negative. We're good. Court proceeds as normal.
Right.
Where the U.S. prosecution was so unprepared that, in my unprofessional opinion, Lewis probably passed out at his loft, because if you don't have your laptop charger, you don't plan on doing any work that night. You don't have your legal paperwork. It literally means you're planning on taking your laptop and then coming back in the morning to be at court. He didn't show up. He probably overslept, woke up, tried to find an excuse to not be able to make it in. And like most other people, if you're running late for work and really don't want to be there, you call in sick.
Yeah.
So I would like to see some criminal fraud cases brought up, because the UK has the most hardcore contact tracing lockdown procedure. So they should know every individual by their own implemented facial recognition software and contact tracing systems, who he was in contact with. And since there is no COVID-19, was he in contact with someone that had it? And was there a reasonable suspicion for it? If not, that's perjury. You can't lie to a court to get a day off because your lead prosecutor didn't show up.
Caitlin Johnstone put out a tweet
Sorry.
that says, if I'd been performing as poorly as the
I can't hear you. Do it in the microphone.
God damn it. Caitlin Johnstone put out a tweet the other day that was like, if I'd been performing as poorly as the Assange trial prosecution, I would call in sick too.
Yeah, exactly. That was after those two witnesses, slammed
so in the first 5 days of court hearings, we lost half a Monday because Lewis was unable to testify properly. He testified on Tuesday, so we lost the other half of the court while he finished his statements. And then we lost Thursday and Friday. So we've had 2 days of court out of a 5-day hearing that's supposed to last 3 weeks. And after those 3 weeks, the U.S. Department of Justice still has 5 more weeks, 6 more weeks to tack on additional charges.
Jesus.
After this hearing happens.
Yeah. Well, what is it? What my question is, moving forward, where do we go from here regarding the trial now? Now that we've had all these theatrics and these calling in sicks, and we can't get proper technical support. Maybe Johnny should go to the UK to make sure that we get everything, people's faces in there, and Sleepy Josh. I think they can do a better job than those assholes over there. Where do we go from here is the next question. What are we expecting?
Well, this trial in and of itself is an absurdity and a violation of the UK's own laws, international laws, US laws, all kinds of, it's a farce in and of itself. So it's only going to get more absurd. But Vanessa Baratzer, the judge, the concierge of the US State Department, from what people have been able to dig for and find, she has about a 96% conviction rate or extradition rate, rubber stamping it. In the US, she would be a hanging judge, and that's who he's going to see. So it looks like the defense is laying out what they're going to base their case off of in the appeals process.
Right.
I'm not saying that there aren't worse judges than Vanessa Baratzer, but
Arbanoff.
Yeah, but the odds of him drawing one as bad or worse, I'm gonna guess the defense believes they're slimmer. But their witnesses are fantastic, and their witnesses, by the way, are getting like 250-page bundles of material 24 hours before they testify that contains everything the prosecution may ask. And that's why you keep seeing the prosecutor trying to raise the question as to whether or not this person is really an expert, because they knew that I was going to ask. Well, you gave them 250 pages of legalese a day before the hearing.
Exactly.
You schmuck, you know. So it with the likely eventuality of appeals, and this is why we wanted to talk to you guys, because you have an engaged audience and there are activists in your audience. With this appeals process, there is going to be a window of time to where we can actually generate the kind of public reaction that the biggest press freedom trial in our lifetimes and the potential death of investigative journalism and everything that we do right now in this moment, all of that is at stake, and that deserves a reaction. And the reaction that it's getting is whispers.
I'm disgusted by it.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, even from the left in America, and I'm talking about the actual, not the Democrats. I'm talking about like people who call themselves progressives, socialists, communists, whatever the hell they call themselves. I am not seeing the attention on this trial that I should be seeing. Like, I'm not. Like, the vast majority of even commentators aren't even talking about this. It's really, really like unnerving to me, because this is what we do. Like, you guys should be screaming about this at the top of your lungs.
That's literally on top of everything we're doing here in DC. That's why we, on Thursday, we're going to start doing live court reporting, is because there was no quick catch up. There wasn't a 45, 50-minute video that you could watch through that summarizes it. So we were going to just do the whole thing. So that way we could know start to finish every detail about it, because we're out doing actions and on the ground, and I hate not knowing that information. Right. So we still are in most days going to be doing morning court reporting followed by action afterwards, because there's no one else in the independent media that's stepped up to do it. And if they're an East Coast creator, the time's 5:00 in the morning. Court officially kicks off at 5:30 a.m. So they could even put up a half an hour countdown timer. On the West Coast, it starts at 2 a.m. A little bit later time, but this is such of high importance that I don't think it should be missed by anybody, because the only way it's getting out is through us being, like, us as in people, the average person being the media.
And what have you guys been doing in DC in particular? What actions that you want to highlight, and what has been the response?
So the quick run through is Monday, we spent 6 hours outside the Lincoln Memorial playing teach-ins, vigils, and had a live captive audience on the stairs. So that was really cool. Tuesday, we went to the Washington Post and put signs up all down the front of their building. And then we tied Free Julian Assange yellow ribbons along all of the trees on both sides of the block. And we did the same kind of thing. We just played educational material about him. We played the court wrap-ups from the day before because we assumed the Washington Post wouldn't know them. On Wednesday, we went to the British Embassy, and we just made a bunch of noise. We interrupted tea time, and the British complained to the Secret Service about it. And the Secret Service told the British, well, tough luck. They're here to protest. They're going to be loud.
Wow.
So that was kind of reassuring and cool. On Thursday, yesterday, we went and so it was a torrential downpour. We literally had a flood warning here in DC, and myself and a contingent of the rest of our people that are absolutely crazy. There was 6 of us that did this, put the black bags and Guantanamo Bay jumpsuits on and did a rally in front of CNN. From there, had marched down the street, and we permitted it. So we literally had a police vehicle in front of us escorting 5 people in Guantanamo bags down the street to Google with a capture van behind them. We were outside of Google, which is across the street from Homeland Security, doing that. And then
is there footage of that?
We do. And then from Google, we marched from there around the corner about another mile in the pouring rain to the offices of C-SPAN, Google, and NBC, as well as Wells Fargo, that are all in the same building, and gave probably about 20 to 30 minutes of chanting and speeches outside of there in literal torrential downpour. So it was a hell of a day yesterday. Today we went to the British Embassy.
Hold up. At the same time, 2 of us went to Baltimore because the Reverend Annie Chambers and our good buddy Ian Schlackman pass out food in her neighborhood 5 days a week. So we went up as Action4Assange and helped her out for a couple of hours. And when we left, it was sprinkling. When we pulled up in the projects and opened the door and got out, it stopped raining and the sun started shining, and we got to hang out with Reverend Annie. We got to meet a handful of people in the community. We got to talk about why we were here and what we were doing. Got people that are coming down from Baltimore to participate in our actions going forward. And as soon as we got back in the car to drive to DC, it started raining. And by the time we got close to where we're staying, it was raining sideways, anvils and pitchforks. We had trash cans floating down the alley. It was hectic. It was great. I love some nature.
And then
I think you guys have to though give a little bit of leeway, because I don't know if you guys heard, if you don't watch MSNBC and CNN, I know they're not covering Assange, but Bob Woodward had some tapes of Donald Trump saying he was downplaying the coronavirus, and that was just breaking news all over the friggin' place. So guys, I know you're, this Assange thing where it might be the biggest espionage case of all time. Bob Woodward over there said that stuff. But don't you guys think, though, a lot of people aren't covering this, not even TYT, and that's really, listen, we bag on TIT, but now for a good reason.
We have a beautifully engaged digital community on top of our physical community that can show up at 2 months notice, 1,000 miles away from their house. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to crawl through TYT's website. I'm going to pull the contacts I have from the time I spent doing political engagement with progressive candidates. And we're going to get the Free Assange community to email every single email address I can at TYT and explain to them why this is so important. So consider this, TYT, a sort of shot across the bow. I don't know if you want to start pulling emails off websites and things, but that's going to be Monday morning's call to action that goes out.
Yeah.
On top of that, we also have additional call to actions. We are partnered with Reporters Without Border. We're cooperating, working with partners, a big word, to contact congressional candidates across the political spectrum to support amendments to the Espionage Act, specifically prohibiting the prosecution of journalists, whistleblowers, and allowing for a public interest defense. As well as 5 other points that are built around just dialogue about why we're here with the free press. And then we also have basically continually warning the court that you have to maintain this technology. The cloud video platform that's currently being used by journalists to view Julian's trial was something that the Action4Assange community won. We partnered with Kevin Gostola because he was complaining about the way the UK courts were handling the phone-in process and how poorly it was constructed, because they'd end up in another courtroom or hearing someone in an office talking. So we as a community sent out emails for over a month, and at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday the 5th, I received an email saying that due to the pressure from the Action4Assange community and their demand the hearings be heard call to action, they're opening up a cloud video platform for journalists.
Cool.
So the very core technological aspects of this case that are allowing it to be reported were won by our community. So we're working on continually pushing that. And we would love the people that watch Convo Couch to get involved with that too. Because what happened on Monday when the proceedings started, Judge Vanessa Baraitster realized that there was over 40 NGOs and parliamentarians observing the court as well as journalists. So she kicked them off at her own whim. She said she didn't want the NGOs and the parliamentarians over in the UK to be able to view the court proceedings. So they were removed at the judge's whim with no process, no appeal or anything. So we stepped up the pressure for our community to drive home the fact that these organizations at the very least need to be in there. If not, give us a public cloud video platform so we can view the trial ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My question was, too, we know that Tulsi Gabbard and Rand Paul have been very vocal in Congress. You were talking about some new candidates out there as well. Have we missed anybody in Congress? Because we know nobody in the mainstream media is even talking about this. This is disgusting. You got the guys from the gray zone, you know, the Aaron Maté and all those guys. You have Glenn Greenwald kind of speaking up, a few people out there, but mainstream media, none. We know Tulsi Gabbard. We know Rand Paul have been vocal about this. Is there somebody else that we're missing in Congress or in the Senate that has been vocal? Because we know Bernie and the squad, silent. And any new candidates that have kind of brought this up?
There's a senator in Maine, not Collins, but the other guy. I can't.
Lisa Savage?
No,
running against Collins?
But like current Maine senator.
Oh, okay.
A tweet out on Monday about Julian Assange and was very adamant about this is wrong. This should not happen. There's a guy named Daniel Burke who's running for Senate in Jersey. He's the I don't know if he's a libertarian or if he's a GOP guy, but he's been setting up all the AMAs with Bill Benny, the NSA whistleblower. It's pretty, look, man, when you're part of a movement that pretends the national security state doesn't exist in the first place, it's a pretty big ask to get them to recognize exactly what is going on with Julian Assange and why it's important. Flat out. It's hard. It's a battle. You might get some tacit support, but there are very few people who are willing to stick their neck out and still try to win inside the duopoly.
Right.
It's just, they've been pretty clear about that. There is near uniform bipartisanship on the way that Congress feels about Julian Assange. And recall, you're George Carlin, and bipartisan means that a larger than normal deception is taking place.
Yeah, and he's getting a lot of support in the UK, which is what I'm seeing from people over there. That kind of support that isn't really happening as much here in the United States. So it's really a wonder. Okay, so just let people know where when you guys are going to start doing that and where they can find you so we all can keep track.
Yeah, so we're going to be putting out an updated event schedule because we were working with some people here and they recommended a permanent location. So next week we're going to be outside of the Department of Justice from about probably noon to 4 every day, just playing teach-ins about Julian to educate the DOJ. You can find us on Twitter at action_4Assange. You can find our call to actions, and when I put it out, the newly updated schedule at action4assange.com.
And we are doing pretty much nightly recaps of what happened in court that day or what happened with our actions that day. Those also stream on my channel, which is Slow News Day. If you're looking for it on YouTube, you can type in Slow News Day Podcast. And I am on Twitter at Slow News Day Show.
Yeah. How long are you guys expecting to be there in D.C. now that they're kicking back or delaying courts?
Well, no matter what happens, we'll be here the full 3 weeks. We got out here last Friday, so we've been out here a week already, and then we're not leaving until not this Friday, but the Friday after.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coming on and sharing, and we'll be in touch.
I think we do have some super chats real quick. It's Munted Gronk says Fiorella for president 2020. Guys, you should promote that because she's going to free Assange. She'll pardon Assange.
I'm down.
And thanks for bringing this
I
to
can't
us.
be president, unfortunately, but thank you.
That was from Brian Deutsch, who actually Brian Deutsch was one of our good friends, and he could have been on this couch with us when we were first talking about starting the show.
Yeah.
Jim Garrison, who he went after, the killers of John F. K. Maybe we can get Garrison on the case, get him out there with you, help him out. And Democracy says, did you see TYT and Biden's birthday video for Bernie? Did you guys see that?
Oh, God.
No.
You're lucky. You're very lucky. Guys, thank you so much for doing what you do. We really do appreciate it now. Guys, if you haven't gone over Action4Assange, they're on ROKFIN as well. And we need more people on ROKFIN because God knows with the censorship going on and what we're seeing, what's happening with Julian Assange, they'll just shut us all down eventually.
Yep.
There's a reason why you guys don't have a lot of followers because they don't want the public to know about Assange. So they suppress you, keep you down. They shadow ban you, and I'm very happy that you guys come on this show and talk about this stuff because it's not being talked about, and it's really sad, and you guys are doing great work. We just want to tip our hats off to you. We were talking about you yesterday, so thank you so much, Andrew and Steve. Johnny, did you have anything else? No.
And send us some rain, please.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll try.
We're on fire here.
I'll try.
We need some of that rain, and send me the logo for your shirt, that Action4Assange. Andrew, show everybody that shirt. That's a great one. Action4Assange. Poikinen's got the WikiLeaks hat on. You guys look beautiful. Stay warm. Buy some raincoats, and we'll see you when you get back. And probably, if there's any breaking news, anything that really comes out that's crazy, let us know, and we'll put you back on so we can hear firsthand information about what's going on with the Julian Assange case, guys. Thank you.
Will do.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
All right. Janine Jackson says, fam, check out the EF Press tomorrow in Belmarsh Prison.
Awesome.
So, thank you so much, Gene Jackson, for the super chat contribution. Thank you for Action Assange. Fam, we're going to come on back and talk about some stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Because we got to talk about Hotel Rwanda over here. We have a lot of things to talk about. It is 9/11 today, so there's things to kind of just remember. Not just 9/11 for us, what happened in New York, but 9/11, the Chilean coup that we supported. CIA is in the house. CIA is in the Action for Assange
millions of dead
house.
people in the Middle East.
Always,
as a consequence. So.
Terrible. So we'll see you back in a little bit for Pasta Jardula.
Fee.
Johnny Sue on those 1s and 2s with Action4Assange.
Combo out.
Later, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.